30 years ago, Catharine Murray went to Thailand with the idea of doing good. The first years she spent there were enormously rewarding.
But in time, she was struck by tragedy when her 5-year-old son was diagnosed with cancer. The ordeal that followed was almost unbearable, and a story that Murray, who lives in Portland, tells in her new memoir, Now You See the Sky. She talked with Rob about her journey from happiness to heartbreak to healing.
1989, you were 23 years old and you went to Thailand. What were you doing there?
I went over to teach English at a refugee camp on the border of Thailand and Laos on the Mekong River.
What was that experience like?
Oh, it was amazing. It was such an incredible job. I loved it. I loved it. I worked with awesome people and learned a lot.
You fell in love, got married to a Thai man, started a family. Were you happy? Was life good for you at that time?
It was idyllic. I was more happy than I ever thought I'd be, having young children and living in a place with lots of extended family and papayas falling off the trees. It was a good life.
You had your first child, healthy boy, had a second child, Chan, and that's when the news came into your life that changed your life. What did the doctors tell you about him?
Right after his 5th birthday, we took him to the doctor for just a routine sort of checkup for something, and the doctors said he was anemic, and then turned out he had AML-M6, which is acute myeloid leukemia.
What was your reaction when that news sank in? After a few weeks had gone by and you started to get some realization of what you were in for?
Fear and panic and outrage and all that. But then at the same time, there was this sort of sense of calm that would come from time to time. So it was a mix.
What he went through is really at the heart of this story. And it's tough to read. It was tough for me to read a lot of the time, because the pain, the misery that this poor kid is going through is so palpable. What was it like for you as his mom?
It was, I mean, it was really hard, you know, that as parents, that's the hardest thing for us, is to watch our kids suffer. You know, we would rather have pain than see them have pain. So, but I you know, I didn't have any choice. It was really the only way through was to just stay with it. And it was really hard, but it made me just be more present in every moment, because I just had, would have been so easy to get lost in fear and worry, and so I just had to just try to stay every second.
The end came when he was 6 years old. And it's the worst possible thing that can happen to a parent. As the days and weeks and months started to go by after his death, what did you go through? What was that like for you?
I had an image of concrete walls going up over my heart. I had this image of a shell of my heart, because I saw myself becoming really irritable and angry at my other children. And I had 2 realizations. One was, oh, all those people in the world I thought were mean, cranky, awful people are probably just heartbroken people. And the other realization I had was that I can't let this happen to me, because it's going to ruin our family. You know, it's not okay for me to be this mean person. The only way to keep my heart from hardening was to actually stop and feel the pain and check in with the pain and cry a lot.
It's now been 20 years since Chan was born. The wound never goes away, but you have a different perspective. What is your perspective now as you look back on your son?
I think because I did do so much work on the wound, I did so much work to intentionally grieve. You know, I definitely don't believe that time heals all. I really made, the writing was the work, the crying was the work. So that's given me a perspective where before I felt sad, you know, when I thought of him, and now I think of him and I really do, I'd say 98% of the time, just feel gratitude that he came to us, and love and pride in who he was. So, and just so delighted that I can share a little bit of him with the world.
So you can think of him now more with smiles than with tears.
Absolutely, yeah, which I never would have believed 14 years ago. Oh my gosh, I thought I would just dry up and die, but it doesn't have to be that way.
The book is dedicated to all those living with loss. May you find a way to let your grief speak.
for me, that was so much the way out of the grief, was to express it. I just think our society tells people not to talk about their grief and to, you know, you should be over it by 6 months or a year or 2 years, and that's not true. It's something that I think, for me, had to be released through expression, creative expression.
What a story.
So she's so authentic about the difficulties that she went through, and talking about grief. I think that's just so helpful and healing.
Well, hopefully that helps other people for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Catharine Murray will be talking about her book, Now You See the Sky, at the Portland Public Library on January 30th. The event is at noon and it is open to the public.